Hey, what's up guys? UrAvgWarGamer is back with another video of World of Warships. And today's topic is about the steel ships in the game, right? I will be recommending you and explaining you your first steel ship that you will be getting in this game. I'm sure that steel is a very hard resource to grind, and a lot of players might be thinking that out of over 15 steel ships, starting from destroyers all the way to submarines, what steel ship would be the best for me, or what steel ship has the highest value or suits really well in the current meta in World of Warships? Well, in this video I will be explaining everything that you need to know, all the burning questions that you need to or sort of solve for a particular steel ship. I will be explaining everything that you need to know. Also going to be explaining the strengths and the weaknesses and why this particular steel ship is going to be really powerful for this current meta and would recommend you over the other steel ships in the game. Everything that you need to know for every ship class. So don't worry about that. I will be explaining in detail so that you don't worry about your hard-earned resource getting wasted because of a bad choice or because of the bad pick that you have got from the steel armory area. That's not going to happen if you watch the video. So definitely keep looking all the ships that I will be explaining. So if you do like the content, please like, share, and subscribe. And let's talk about our first pick. For destroyers, okay? So the first steel destroyer that I would highly recommend you guys to pick is going to be the German destroyer Z42. Now, it's a difficult choice. It's between Ragnar, which is another very strong pan-European destroyer, and also the Z42. I would say out of both, I'm going to be slightly giving the edge to Z42, okay? Now, the reasons why I want to, recommend you to Z42 over the Ragnar. Now, Ragnar is good, don't get me wrong. It has something which not a whole lot of destroyers have in the game, which is a radar. But Z42 also have something which not a whole lot of destroyers have in the game, which is the short burst smoke generator. I will get back to the short burst smoke generator later, but let's talk about the guns. Z42 has 10 guns with very decent reload time at 4, or I would say 4.2 seconds. I don't exactly remember the reload time. It's like 4.5 seconds or something like that. But you can get it down to 3.8 seconds with the reload mod, and maybe if you build it with captain skills, this can go down to 3.8 seconds at least. Now, the reason why Z42 is going to be better for, compared to Ragnar is because the smokes and the hydro combo, that is, I would say, extremely powerful. Like, the short burst smokes, I have already previously explained quite a bit of destroyers, and whenever I come up to the destroyers that have short burst smoke generator, I always say that it has the best smokes in the game. The best smokes in the game are short burst smoke generator simply because they incentivize hit and run sort of ways to deal with enemy ships. You have these short burst smoke generator that can just smoke yourself up for like 40 seconds, and then they also load quickly with a cooldown of around 22 to 26 seconds, right? If you utilize this smoke for 40 seconds, you can always disengage from any enemy destroyer that you cannot do on Ragnar, for example. If you completely caught off guard, and then there's so many shells of cruisers, battleship, or even destroyer that you are trying to shoot with a radar that you have popped up against him. If you shoot him back, and if you cannot disengage, well, you are kinda going to get screwed, even though you might have a really good HP. But in the case of Z42, if there is no radar, and if you felt that there is so much harm or the damage that is coming towards you, you can always smoke up. Or if any destroyer trying to push you, you have 6 kilometer hydro with a combination of 6.2 kilometer concealment, which is lethal combo. Any destroyer that is really gonna be trying hard to counter you, he's definitely gonna get himself caught completely off guard with the hydro. That's just gonna spot him for days, for at least 132 seconds if you fully build like this. And then you also have engine boost to have some sort of more defense, self-defense in general. And these 3 combos are extremely viable and very powerful for this current meta. Now Ragnar does, really counter them with a radar, right? 7.5 kilometer radar, but again, Ragnar also has 7.5 kilometer concealment. But here's the thing, that the Z42 is going to be more useful, and that is this hydro. This hydro can also do the same thing like radar, right? You can always push into the destroyers with the hydro, and you can catch them just like radar. But again, you can also smoke up along the way. Like you just simply smoke up in like 5 kilometer, like, and you just able to pull the hydro, onto that destroyer, and you will just simply able to kill him while not taking any damage. In the case of Ragnar, if there's a destroyer in the smoke and you pop the radar, you might have a good chance of getting detected as well, because you are not fully concealed unless someone's radar, okay? Or I would say someone maybe do something else. So what happens is, if you are spotted by something else, if you're shooting onto the destroyer that is in smoke, well, you have no chance to disengage because you are also spotted. But in the case of Z42, this is not going to happen. And that is the best thing that I can think of a destroyer for a relatively newer player, or the first steel ship that I would say is going to be that. Like in terms of the easiness, in terms of the comfortness with the smoke, not getting spotted and getting farmed by anything, is something that is going to be a lot much more easier for relatively newer players as compared to the Ragnar, that is a bit more towards experienced players. Like, so the skill, is going to be a lot much more kind of complicated if you pick the Ragnar. Ragnar is strong, don't get me wrong, but again, it's difficult. It's not easy to pull the radar and you just able to kill the DD as well, because it's not have enough DPM as well along the way. But in the case of Z42, the radar, the hydro, it's just going to last more than a minute. In fact, more than 2 minutes, okay? That will just completely eradicate the DD if you just keep shooting him in the smoke, which lasts for 40 seconds. And then you can always engage back whenever you need to, because you will have the smoke again in 22.5 seconds once the old smoke fully disperse. Is something that I would really gonna make you guys recommend Z42 over the Ragnar. Simple as that. The guns also have something that is special, and that is it having HE that at least have improved HE like pen built in. The caliber of the Z42 is not something that's gonna give you that much HE HE pen. But again, since it's a German destroyer, they come up with this improved HE pen. And also, it also have very, very low caliber guns, which means that the AP, which actually is the very, very strong thing about Z42, is something that you can actually able to penetrate on broadside destroyers. Why? You might ask why. With this 2.4K alpha with my build, you can actually able to just lob, or I would say pump 10 shells onto the broadside destroyer with only 18mm arming threshold. Which means all the destroyer that show broadside, almost all the destroyer in the game, every destroyer I would say, they will just gonna get huge AP alpha pens. You can chunk them for 4 to 5 to 7K per volley. That is something that Z42 can do really well, okay? There are other destroyers out there that cannot do that, because the plating of, for example, if I take a look at the Marceau has what? 19mm plating. Most destroyers with AP just simply going to get overpens. And that's why the AP on broadside is not worth it. But in the case of Z42, you have 18mm arming threshold with the AP. You're just simply able to pen them. And you will just chunk them so hard if they broadside you somehow. And then you can also switch to HE, which, I mean, not the best damage per minute at 191K, but it's not too bad. It's really not too bad that I would say that it's like currently comparable to the Shimakaze, okay? It's better than Shimakaze. Shimakaze has 127K HE damage per minute, but at least Z42 has 191K with this build. So this ship really gonna be pumping with 400K almost AP DPM onto the broadside destroyer, which is kinda nuts, I would say. So with this smoke, short smoke, and a hydro combo, and everything that you have, also with you also have torpedoes. I mean, I just would simply say one thing, that even though these torpedoes are very, very not the best, the damage is pretty bad. The torpedo speed is also not the best as well. Only 10km range, but they're still gonna be setting floods. And obviously, once they DCB the flood, you can always set fires. So these are still pretty good, at least if someone comes very, very close to you. So you cannot do it on Ragnar. Again, the Ragnar does not have any torpedoes whatsoever. Again, reducing its versatility. And even if you maybe say that it has one of the best anti-defense on a destroyer in the game, which I would kind of agree with, that if you're solely looking for really good anti-defense on a destroyer, then I can recommend you the Ragnar. There's no doubt about that. But again, The CV can spot you for a very long time and can still screw you up in a very tough positions where the Z42 can simply smoke up, and with these short smokes you can just simply disengage for at least 50 seconds, right? Which is something that is better than Ragnar for sure. I believe that. And also, one more thing that I particularly love about that ship, that you have the Guntur Luthi. If you have the Guntur Luthens, which is the legendary commander, if you somehow manage to get it for 175k gold, again, you have to spend some gold resource. It's just gonna make Z42 life even better, because it does have some built-in skills, like improving the reload time by minus 7.5% once you get 140 shell hits, which is very, very easy on that guy, on that destroyer, sorry. And then you also able to get 3 spotting ribbons, giving you 3k HP heal, which is so nice, right? So these perks are something that can make the Z42 even better. With this better DPM, 7.5%, this can go down to like 3.3 or 3.2 seconds of reload time, at least something like that, which makes it even better with this legendary captain. So I would say this ship, you should buy it first. The entire defense is not good. Again, compared to Ragnar, it's not good. But at least for the first steel destroyer, it has a lot of versatility. It has so many tools to deal with. And then I haven't even talked about the AP on broadside cruisers and battleships, that you can chunk them as well for like 6k, 5k volleys per salvo. It's something that is very, very nice on Z42. So you have to use a lot of AP on broadside. And if you want to set fires, well, the fire per minute is going to be pretty abysmal. Only 5% fire chance with 1.2k alpha is something that is a bit of a weakness. But again, you still have HEs. You don't really lose AP in general. Oh, sorry, you're not losing HE in general. You have AP, and you still have HE as well along the way. So it's not like AP focused only. You can always use HE. You can always set fire. It's not like the end of the world. But with this reload time, you will be still comfortable with using HE. So I would say, with this so many tools and utility and the best smokes in the game, you cannot go wrong with Z42 over the Ragnar. And you should buy it first for your first steel ship, for sure. If you want to pick your first cruiser for steel resources, I think there is no other cruiser that is going to be so much powerful, at least in terms of its game impact and the guns that it has and the armor it has, and it is still, after almost 6 years or almost 7 years into the game. Like, Stalingrad got released in 2018, and even after 7 years, it is still one of the very strongest cruisers in the game. I would recommend it over many steel cruisers right now, especially the Austin, the Plymouth, the other cruisers that you are currently seeing right now, even the Severe, which is a newest, steel cruiser that you might be thinking of, you might have heard of. Even then, over all the steel ships, it's very easy for me. Like, it's not even like the Z42 versus Ragnar. Ragnar is very close compared to Z42, and I still recommend Z42, but Stalingrad is still ahead of most other cruisers that are available for the steel resource in the game. Now, why? You might be thinking that why? It does have cruiser, captain skills, right? So it's a battleship hull sort of, that does not have fire prevention, which is unfortunate. It used to have fire prevention. It has gotten nerfed over time by some indirect nerfs. They have never directly nerfed the Stalingrad except for the radar, but I will explain the radar. But again, radar is one of the things that just makes cruiser really, really powerful, right? You can counter destroyers, right? Pretty hard. But what makes it Stalingrad still viable in 2025? Well, these guns are absolutely kicker, even in today's standards. These guns are so powerful that Wargaming has never released any other cruiser that has these good guns. I've been playing this for 7 years, 8 years right now, and I haven't seen the guns better than Stalingrad. The Stalingrad has the best guns in the game currently for a cruiser. No one comes close. There might be Sevastopol. The Sevastopol you might be thinking with 380mm guns. As you can see, this is Sevastopol, right? 380mm guns, right? It should be having better pen than Stalingrad, right? Yes, it does have a better pen. With 380mm guns, it's having better AP pen. But you know how much AP pen difference it is? It's like couple of percentages, like maybe 3-4% better than Stalingrad. 380mm guns is only just slightly marginally better than Stalingrad 305mm guns. Stalingrad has one of the best AP pens in the game. And also Stalingrad has one of the best accuracy in terms of sigma in the game. This is not a joke. If I'm saying 2.65 sigma, no ship currently in the game having this 2.65 value on the guns that Stalingrad have. The 2.65 sigma really means that the shell grouping is gonna be the tightest of all ships that we have currently right now in the game. No one has the tighter shell grouping that Stalingrad, only the Stalingrad has, okay? 2.65 sigma. Also along with that, you have battle cruiser dispersion, which means that it is going to be it's going to be better than battleships as well in terms of dispersion. So with these two factors in mind, Stalingrad guns are extremely accurate for a heavy cruiser. And I'm telling you, some of the shells that you throw going to be just straight lining up with no distance in between. All the three shells, if you shoot from a turret, if they somehow manage to kick with 2.65 sigma, they will just gonna go straight up without any, distance in between the shells. That's how ridiculous these guns are because of this sigma value. And then you have the most insane shell velocity, and the shells are so fast with the Stalingrad that they're just gonna get to the target very quickly. Very, very easy to aim. The AP penetration is that of 380mm guns. Then it also have, the reduced arming threshold, which means that it has short fuse time, reduced arming threshold, which means that the small lands with only 70mm armor, they will still going to get Citadel regardless of how good Stalingrad AP pen really is. I mean, it's really 380mm caliber guns like Bourgogne. The AP pen kind of works just like Bourgogne 380mm guns, right? Which is another steel battleship. But the Stalingrad having the similar pens, which means that you can even Citadel battleship at around long ranges. I have Citadel Thunderers, Montanas at 15, 16 kilometer, no problem whatsoever if they are fully broadside. Because this have so much pen. It has better pen than Petropavlovsk. Way better pen. Like these are 305mm guns. For 220mm guns that Petro has, those are really impressive. But Stalingrad is just even more impressive by a long margin in terms of penetration. With this insane accuracy and with this really, really good AP, on broadside battleships, cruisers, light cruisers, you're just gonna smash everything. Like battleships are going to take every 18.5 seconds battleship levels of penetration damage. If you're able to shoot onto the broadside battleship, consider chunking them for like 10 to 20k per volley in 18.5 seconds, which is like really impressive. Like 18.5 seconds of reload time is something that battleships are not usually going to have in the game. Stalingrad does have it with battle cruiser dispersion and 2.65 sigma. And then even if you just maybe see the angled battleship out there pushing towards you, you can always switch to a HE. And HE also have 4.5k alpha, which is very nice with 33% fire chance. Now this fire chance with this insane accuracy, like most of the time you're going to get 7-8 shell hits even at long ranges, no problem whatsoever. You're going to set fires upon fires as well. Like so Stalingrad guns HE also is very, very lethal, very, very good for the heavy cruiser. With this accuracy, so many shells going to hit, and then with this 33% fire chance, even at tier 10, you are going to have a good chance of insetting fires. Like for example, even if I just compare it, the Montana maybe if I just compare it to the Ohio is also one of the really strong, but it's a research bureau battleship in the game with 457mm guns. Look at the fire chance of the Ohio, 43% fire chance. Stalingrad is not too far with just 305mm guns and having 33% fire chance. So you can already see why I'm saying this fire chance is really, really good. And AP alpha is also really impressive at 9.6k. I mean, you're shooting battleship levels of AP volleys, chunking them for 10 to 15 to 20k, and if there's a broadside cruiser, consider getting them Citadel extremely hard. You're just going to be deleting cruisers off the map if they broadside. The guns are so lethal even in today. AP alpha is almost 10k. So these guns having alpha that like of 357mm guns. Like, they are so good with AP. So the guns are the star of the show. The guns are so brutal, so powerful, that a lot of the weaknesses that Stalingrad have, which I will explain, are something that, yes, it's definitely going to be suffering a bit here and there, but you will love the guns. The only reason to play Stalingrad is you just try out the guns. You're just going to be feeling so much lovely, comfortable using these guns. They are so disgusting, they are so accurate, then that like whenever you are playing Battleship after Stalingrad, you might be thinking that I wish I would have the guns like Stalingrad. Like really, these are so good. 76k HP on Stalingrad is also one of the reasons that you should buy it. Like it's having one of the highest HP for a cruiser in the game. For the heavy cruiser, it has one of the highest HP. 76,000. The torpedo protection for a heavy cruiser is also impressive at 25%. Your anti-defense is also pretty decent. And considering you also have defensive AFR, I'm telling you, any below average or above average CV player, at least not, I mean, I'm not talking about good CV players. If there is above average, average or below average CV player, consider them, you're just going to counter them with defensive fire because they will eat flags, and you have a lot of flags. As you can see, you have 8 flags in the Stalingrad AA, and then you also have AA defense that is very, very good. Overall, the numbers, I don't want to explain them, but with defensive fire, you are going to shoot down planes for 100% sure. I have played Stalingrad a lot, and that's why I can clearly say that defensive fire is going to work a lot. Now, it does have slightly less continuous damage at plus 25%. Sure, it's actually one of the lowest defensive fire continuous damage buff. Like, there's no other, I think, cruiser in the game that has like low continuous damage buff with defensive fire in the game, but there's also no other ship in the game that has 60 seconds of action time, like 60 seconds, which is like compared to 40 seconds that you usually get on other normal defensive fire consumables. So it's something that is a bit special of the Stalingrad. Long action time, but very low continuous damage, which is like half at plus 25%. So that is something that you need to know. But again, also it's having a cooldown of 180 seconds. So this is something that you should be keeping in mind. But I think 180 seconds of cooldown should be okay unless you are pushing your CV aggressively and you want to get defensive fire very, very quickly. But most of the time, it's really, really good. You have radar. I mean, literally, it's a battleship. It almost feels like a battleship. Your armor is some of the most tankiest. Yet you do have a big superstructure, which I will explain a bit. It's one of the biggest weaknesses of Stalingrad. The hull is actually one of the weaknesses, but again, if you are utilizing the 50mm armor plating and the fore-end armor belt as well, you're just gonna see that it is very tanky even at bow-end situations, right? That there is no other cruiser that can do usually that. It's other than Stalingrad, right? So Stalingrad, guns, HP. Everything unique. You have a radar, which I said, that counter destroyers. You have heals as well, which obviously with this massive HP, the healing potential is also going to be quite higher than other cruisers as well. So you just heal a lot of HP because of the large HP in general, because the heal works like a percentage based. Like the more HP you have, the more healing potential you have in a single heal. That's what I would say. So the Stalingrad is really nice, right? Now, the weakness of the Stalingrad that you might be thinking is something that it's not really going to be worth it, is that you're going to take 60 seconds of fire duration, which is understandable considering this is really a powerful cruiser that is also tanky at the same time. You have a big superstructure taking a lot of damage. So, yeah, that's the biggest weakness. You take a lot of damage onto the superstructure. You take huge damage. You chunk a lot from battleship AP volleys, especially these accurate battleships like Bungo, Wisconsin, maybe even Yamato. So that's where you have to bait a lot of the shells here. If you manage to do that, if you manage to not show broadside, which is, I would say, the biggest weakness of the Stalingrad, it's like huge citadel armor of only 180mm. This is something that if you're able to mitigate it really well, then, or at least if you're able to just position yourself really well, because you cannot bow in like in Stalingrad. It's something that you have to stay angled and stay in covers, either using islands or either try to be just in a kiting position. If you're able to do that, then Stalingrad firing angles are also pretty impressive. You have kiting firing angles that are extremely good. You won't be able to get any citadel damage. You will be actually baiting a lot of shells here. And also, if you are pushing in, your front firing angles are also very impressive. So it's a really good package. I don't think so I can recommend you any other cruiser than Stalingrad. Obviously, the concealment might be something that you also need to know. At 14.2 seconds, it's basically battleship levels of concealment. Actually, quite a bit worse as well compared to some newer battleship that have gotten released in the game, like Wisconsin at 12.9, Libertad at 13.1 kilometer, Schlieffen has 12.6 kilometer. The Stalingrad having Montana levels of concealment, and at only 14.2. It's basically very comparable to Yamato as well. 14.0 and versus 14.2 is not too much of a difference. So that's where the Stalingrad definitely going to suffer. But simple, I would simply say one thing. Try it once, you will not gonna regret it. It's not for everyone, but it should be still the first steel ship that you get. You should be getting because of the guns. The guns are something that can also really make it very competitive as well in the random battles, or even in the ranked, or even in the clan battles. It's definitely really, really good for that reasons. And hence the reason why I would say for a cruiser, pick the Stalingrad first for a steel ship. Now I'm sure I have explained almost everything that you need to know with the AP guns, with a lot of the other stuffs. So if anything you need to know more about Stalin, you can always comment me down below. Let's talk about the battleship. Well, I believe that the best battleship, the first battleship that you should get for the steel resource, I would say should be Bourgogne. There are so many battleships that you can get for the steel. I can completely understand a lot of players might be having very, very big difficulty in just choosing their first steel ship. But for me, I think very easy recommendation is going to be Bourgogne, right? Now, here's the reason why I would say Bourgogne is going to be really, really nice. Now, the biggest strength of the Bourgogne, unlike maybe any other battleship out there, maybe, for example, if I compare to Mecklenburg, the Lauria, because these are the steel resource battleships out there that are very, very good as well. Don't get me wrong, there's also incomparable in Shikishima. There are so many other battleships, and why Bourgogne over those other battleships? I would say simply because of a couple of reasons. The speed of the Bourgogne, when it got released, it has something which is very unique for a battleship. It having the 15% engine boost, and it can go up to, I would say, like 37 or 38 knots of speed, which I would say at that time was like extremely good, like extremely powerful, in fact, because we don't usually get the battleship that having that really good speed. And even today's standards, the Bourgogne speed is still really good. The speed is the reason why Bourgogne is going to be so much getting favored in this current meta, where there's going to be a lot of spotting and a lot of difficulty to tank damage in general, because if you get spotted, and there are so many other things, a lot of complicated things, but the speed just make you engage to a target fairly quickly by pushing in, and you can also able to disengage fairly quickly by just running away. With 37.8 knots of speed, something like that, with the speed boost 15% increase for 234 seconds if you have a upgrade mod, this is gonna make really, really powerful battleship, okay? One of the reasons why I would prefer Bourgogne. The Shikishima, the other battleships, they are very slow, but they might be a bit tankier. But again, Bourgogne with the speed can speed juke a lot of the shells that are coming in towards his way. Also, one of the biggest strengths that I would say that Bourgogne has over other ships, I would say, that's my personal opinion, that is going to be its armor layout. Now, its armor layout is very not good. In fact, it's really not good at all. 32mm all over the place really means that you are going to take huge HE spam, and you will going to get pen damage from IFHE Harugumo that can have more pen like 37mm, or the Wooster that with IFHE, or the Nevsky with IFHE can pen. So there are a lot of cruisers out there like Des Moines or Zhao that can just simply straight up pen you with this really bad 32mm armor. But here's the thing that makes Bourgogne really good, and I especially would say it's gonna be a lot much more I would say first, what do I call it? New player friendly. Sorry, I just didn't realize it. I want to say new player friendly thing that Bourgogne has is going to be this armor. This armor is something, it's having a sort of weak turtle back. The armor is kind of such that its citadel is kind of protected by this huge casemate armor. I mean, it also have this, torpedo protection bulk of 32mm. So with this layers of armor, and you also have this armor, and then there is also a space between the citadel and this armor plating that it has, 50mm. This really makes it very, very difficult to citadel at all. In fact, at only close ranges, the Bourgogne is going to be citadel. So you are going to take damage, you are going to take pen damage, but you are not going to take citadel damage at medium ranges. Only at very close ranges, like 5km, maybe if you are full flat broadside at 10km, if someone able to shoot you under the turrets, then the Bourgogne will going to get citadel. It's very difficult to citadel, and this is going to help a lot for the newer players out there in the game that have got enough steel, and hence the reason why the Bourgogne is going to be a lot much more survivable. Speed and the armor, at least with the protection of citadel, is something that really makes Bourgogne interesting for me, at least for the newer players. But also there are many reasons. This is only a couple of reasons, right? I haven't even talked about the guns. The guns, well, unfortunately, these are only 380mm guns, so they are not special. For example, compared to the Shikishima's 500 and I would say 10mm guns, 508mm gun, I don't remember but they have like huge caliber guns. AP that does so much damage with alpha. Bourgogne has only 12 guns, 380mm guns. But here's the thing that I really love about the Bourgogne. The shell velocity, and also the reload time of the Bourgogne with 12 guns, 380mm guns with 1.8 sigma, which is, I would say, relatively decent. Like 1.8 sigma is pretty good, I would say. With this accuracy overall, with 1.8 sigma and with these 12 guns, I can actually able to chunk broadside battleships very reliably compared to the Shikishima or maybe incomparable. The guns, on the other hand, those can do pretty well. The Shikishima, the incomparable, the Loria, you can actually have pretty devastating damage with 20k sometimes with SAP. But again, Bourgogne has a lot of flexibility. Even if someone broadsides you, you have so many shell count. You have so many shells to throw with really good shell velocity that you are going to do good damage. And I'm telling you, with this amount of shell velocity and the shell amount that you have, you're going to reliably citadel cruisers at broadside, battleships at broadside. The pen is really good, at least around 10 to 15km in between that. Mid-ranges I'm talking about. And the guns gets a bit reliable because of the amount of shells that you throw in a very quick reload time of base 28 seconds. And that's the exactly reason why I love Bourgogne. You have double the shell count, for example, compared to Shikishima, the almost double than Loria, almost double, like 8 versus 12. I would say slightly better. It's not like double, but still it's better for sure. And then you also have double the the shell count compared to the incomparable. So that's the reason why with these guns, AP will just do huge damage on battleship, or especially on cruiser. You're just gonna see that how good shell velocity the Bourgogne really is at long ranges. It retains a lot of the shell speed, even at long ranges, that they are very easy to hit at long ranges, I would say, on a cruiser, on battleships. And then it's something that I still would say that no other battleship, or I would say very few battleships have in the game, and that is its main battery load booster. Now this is something that can just really counter any ship that is pushing towards you 1 versus 1 very hard. It just counters extremely hard with this main battery load booster. Any battleship that does angles against you, you have 5.4k alpha, which is very close to that of Montana's 5.7k alpha. Like, the alpha damage of 380mm guns of this Bourgogne is still very good, and still having better reload time than that of Montana, which is a Tech 3 Tier 10 American battleship, right? And because of these reasons, the Bourgogne HE spamming power is also very consistent. If someone just completely angles against you, you can just always switch to HE, set fires. If DCBs, you can always come back with the main battery load booster that you have 4 right now. Like, you have 4 on your disposal, and I'm telling you, with this DPM buff, with like minus 50% main battery load time, you're just cutting the reload time into half. You're just able to land 2 volleys consecutive onto a target. It's just gonna make 1 versus 1 so much one-sided for the favor of Bourgogne that just makes Bourgogne still very powerful in this game. Like, there's no other battleship like such Shikishima, Loria, incomparable. They don't have this capability. Even the Mecklenburg might be having really good guns, but the firing angles compared to the Bourgogne are just terrible. Like, really bad firing angles. You're just gonna take so much damage if you're a new player out there. Hence the reason why I didn't recommend Mecklenburg. The guns are accurate. These are low caliber, more reliable than Bourgogne. But Bourgogne with really, really impressive kiting firing angles, it just makes Bourgogne really good. And the speed, just like I said, speed is good. Protection, citadel protection is really good. Torpedo protection is really good, like 44%. Like, it's very getting closer to the levels of Japanese battleship at 55%, for example, like in the case of Yamato. Yamato has 55%, you have 44%. Your HP might be low, but consider Bourgogne is a heavy cruiser, right? And just play it as a heavy cruiser in a kiting position, and you will be able to do so much damage, and you will be having so much fun, even in 2025, that I would say it's a good, solid battleship. Your first investment that I believe that it should be the Bourgogne. I hope I just explained everything. This is a game changer still, even in 2024. It's still very, very unique for a battleship. This main battery load booster that I cannot recommend you enough. Like, it's really nice to have this thing on your hand, and this will reload up in just under 2 minutes, which is like really, really nice. Like, you have so many, like, the game only gonna last for maximum 20 minutes, right? It's just gonna last for 20 minutes. And having these ability to just pump out so much DPM with 4 main battery load booster, it just gives so much edge over, I would say, the Shikishima, the Incomparable, all the other ships out there. And with this amount of shell count that you have, with this really good reload time at 24.6 seconds, and then you also, if you somehow manage to get Flip Abonio, getting depth strikes is gonna be giving you the reload time, which you cannot do with the Yamamoto. Yamamoto just need 5 kills. It can just get better with even the talents, right? 5% main battery load time. If you get devastating strike, which is possible on Bourgogne on broadside cruisers like small lands, you can just depth strike small lands, Sevilla, light cruisers like Minotaur or Edgar. And also, if you manage to get 2 million potential, you're just gonna get extra speed of plus 8%. I haven't even explained the brisk power that it has. Now I haven't put the brisk onto the Bourgogne, but I mean, Bourgogne can get up to the 42 knots of speed with the brisk. That is extremely powerful. 41, 42 knots of speed with brisk, and on top of that, you are going to get the ship speed 8% by tanking 2 million, which is like 100% possible in Bourgogne every single game. You're going to be having a speed of 45 knots. That is just maddening nuts. That's just ridiculous. You're getting at a speed like this, 45 knots. There's no battleship in the game that can do that. But with this captain, Philip Abonio, unique captain, and with the brisk, it's 100% possible as well. So it's just going to make it even more unique than any other battleship in the game. The uniqueness with the main battery load booster, I can't emphasize enough, is such that Bourgogne gets highly recommended. Your anti-defense is also not too bad, and your maneuverability with the speed boost gets pretty good, that you can able to at least dodge some of the air strikes, right? Or I would say the CV strikes, which I would say is going to be decent. Bourgogne's not going to be having a earth-shattering air defense, but it's still having decent numbers that at least you can fend off some air strikes if you're able to mitigate damage by just dodging also the CV attacks in return. So this is something that is a bit of a mixed bag, the anti-defense, but at least it's still there. And with this really nice range at 25 kilometers, you can also CV snipe pretty nicely on broadside battleships. On broadside carriers. So Bourgogne is a really good package, guys. I think I just explained everything, and the reason, the shell count is something that is good. The accuracy is still very, very good. The main battery load booster, it has so many good tools still, even in 2024. If someone destroys spots, for example, if some destroy spots, and if you use the main battery load booster, you're just gonna kill them in just like within 20 seconds with this insane HE volleys. So it's really nice. 63mm pen means you can even HE pen Kremlin, so it's not like having bad HE pen as well. So Bourgogne, for the first steel battleship, highly recommended. It's going to be a lot much more reliable overall than Shikishima and Incomparable, or even Loria sometimes. Because of the speed factor, I just still going to recommend you guys. I hope I explained everything that I should for this Bourgogne, or maybe I should be able to convince you that Bourgogne is good. Please let me know in the comments, and let's talk about the carriers, which is going to be even more interesting. All right, for the aircraft carrier, Shinano, which is a tier 10 Japanese aircraft carrier, I would say it's the most unique carrier that you can get right now for steel as your first steel ship. Now it's difficult. Okay, Shinano and FDR both are two steel ships offering by Wargaming right now for the steel resource. It's difficult, guys. It's not easy to recommend you the FDR, or at least it's difficult, right? Overall, the FDR is also very, very interesting. But I still, after thinking for some good time, analyzing the process, analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of both carriers, I decided to give good edge, really good edge to Shinano. Now, here are the reasons why. Shinano, in my personal opinion, is one of the most tankiest carrier that Wargaming has ever added into the game. There's no other carrier that has 27mm bow armor. I don't remember the CV that having. Maybe if I just compare it with the German carrier, which is a Cole Maximilian. Yeah, it does have some really good tanky armor, like this area, right? But it's still going to be having some areas where it's just going to be vulnerable with a lot of HE pen by destroyers or light cruisers like Smolensk with 19mm, or I would say 21mm sort of HE pen, right? But in the case of Shinano, its all area is just either covered with 27mm, either covered with 30mm, or either covered with the deck armor that is 75mm. So, okay, I mean, even if I compare it with Immelmann, right? Immelmann has really not good tanky armor because of the only 50mm armor thickness. It's just gonna get HE penned by, for example, the heavy cruisers like Alaska, Stalingrad, Yoshino, Hindenburg with built-in IFHE that they have without even using IFHE, just simply able to penetrate the deck armors of this poor German battleship. And even though it might have some tanky armor here, but Shinano is just complete beast in terms of the tankiness that you can get for a carrier, right? And I haven't even talked about the extra ridiculous thing that they have given to Shinano is that they also have access to smokes. Again, just making it not only extremely tanky by this hull design that they have given, like its citadel is there, sure, its citadel is like 160mm here. That's the key weakness of Shinano. But if you are broadsided and you get spotted, you're just always able to smoke yourself up, man. That's just completely ridiculous. This is like the most stupid thing that I can think of for a carrier that they have given to the Shinano. Like I don't understand this. Like, this just completely boggles mind. It's mind-boggling for me. Giving a smoke curtain generator is just gonna make it's I would say the survivability something that no other carrier right now has in the game. Maybe you can even compare it with A6. A6 is a tier 10 Tech 3 American aircraft carrier, but it has really bad armor. 30mm armor almost all over the place. But Shinano, I mean, it has smokes, and that's the reason why I'm comparing it with A6, right? But A6 have really, really bad armor, like really bad armor. But Shinano is like way, way insane armor than I would say compared to the A6. So that's the reason why it gets just so much edge. It just gets so much unique because of this armor, especially over the FDR. Like, for example, FDR might be having tanky armor at 87mm pen, but Shinano also has very, very tanky armor. Like, a lot of the battleships will not going to pen you as well, just like in the case of FDR. So there's no difference whatsoever, almost. Slightly less armor, but it just does not matter. It's just gonna work so well. I haven't even talked about the 55% torpedo protection because it's a Yamato class hull. The Shinano actually was a carrier in service. It's not a ship design. The Shinano actually got released in the real life as well. So it does have sort of Yamato armor. If you just go into the layout of the Citadel, you will eventually find that it also have cheeks like Yamato, which again, it's a bit vulnerable like Yamato. But again, then you have smoke, which I have explained, and then you have so much armor that they have to go through it first at long ranges before they are getting to that. And then you also have it's having the highest torpedo protection in the game. Again, makes it very unique over other carrier in the game. For example, in the case of FDR, which is kind of its direct rival for steel, it has 25%. It's like double the protection compared to the FDR. So that's the armor. With the smokes, and other stuff, right, which I've explained of the Shinano. Now comes up with more gimmicks that Shinano has. Shinano comes up with the AP skip bombs, which no other carrier also has in the game. Okay, it has access to heals again, making it a lot much more tanky. If you're getting through your first strike, you just pop the heal. Your planes are gonna be immune to get shot down if you get your first strike through. Then afterwards, you can do the second strike because you will be having 8 planes remaining. Now remember, it has quite a lot of planes, right? Not only their deck is like you have a lot of planes on deck, as you can see here. You also having the skip bombers that are 12 in a single attack flight, right? So you can at least attack 3 times on a target. These AP bombs that have pretty decent alpha damage at 6.8k. These are having 600-ish millimeter AP pen, which is kind of busted. I mean, you can just citadel any battleship in the game if you're using the skips correctly. And then you can also citadel cruisers as well, even light cruisers if you are utilizing the skips potential that it has. And you can also, because of this uniqueness of AP skip bombers, because I'm emphasizing on the skips works such that you can bypass the mid-range aura, which is like the tankiest AA for all the ship classes in the game. I mean, even if I just maybe compare the entire defense, the reason why I'm saying that the mid-range aura is the most powerful, as you can see here, it does not have access to, for some reason, the Shinano does not have access to mid-range aura, but again, even then, you're just going to be almost bypassing this long-range aura very quickly. You're just going to be cycling the AP skip bomber such that you're just going to be bypassing 3.5 kilometer aura. You're not going to be getting it for many seconds, unlike any other carrier. For example, in the case of like midway bombs works like a dive way dropping, so they have to just go across the long range aura, mid range aura, and short range aura. But in the case of Shinano, it's not the case. You're just gonna bypass, and you're just gonna have so much tankiness because of that. Okay, your torpedo bombers are also having access to heals. They deal pretty decent damage with 3 torpedoes in payload, at least in your attack run. 7.2k damage. You just can chunk cruisers, battle so hard. Your torpedoes have insane accuracy. Like these torpedoes just go and drop, and then you have having like 3 arrows going towards a single target with no distance in between. These are the torpedo power that Shinano has. That is just way better than FDR as well. AP skip bombers, and you also have these tactical squadrons, these HE bombers. These are like the most versatile HE bombers that they have given to a carrier in the game. Like you can just drop on destroyers, and you can deal like 5k damage on average per drop. You can even drop like, for example, cruisers, and you can just get some good HE pen damage. Battleships as well. They're just gonna be so versatile against so many targets as one. So the HE bombers, and you also don't need to fear of just losing them because these are consumable based, I would say, tactical squadrons. So very tanky as well along the way. Like you're not gonna be shooting, getting shot down. A lot of them, they just kind of work like Nakhimov tankiness, right? Nakhimov planes having a single, attack-based flight, and Shinano also have these HE bombers with the tactical bombers that also having so much tankiness built in because they have just the last single, strike. I might be able to explain that why they are tanky, but they are tanky. That's what I can say. I mean, there is so many details. There are so many hidden mechanics that are working for the HE bombers that it's just gonna take another video. So I'm just gonna say that they are very, very tanky. You're just gonna be having a good time if you drop onto the battleship, cruisers, or destroyers. So very, very high versatility. You have insane tankiness, just like I have explained very, very in detail. You have very good concealment, considering you are very tanky in general. Like 14.3 kilometer concealment is very, very nice. Torpedo protection I have already explained. So it has so much versatility, and it has so much power in pushing into the enemy team with the help of smoke and the tankiness that it has in general, that Shinano is very, very, very brutal if you're able to just come around the islands, put yourself very close range against those battleships that are running from you or that are even pushing you, that I just have to recommend Shinano. You can just go and check out countless gameplays. You will eventually find out that Shinano is going to be just one of the most oppressive, ridiculous carriers in the game. I mean, I haven't talked about the CV versus CV power that Shinano has that no one has in the game. Like CV against CV, if you are in Shinano and you are using AP skip bombers onto a broadside carrier, you're just gonna be absolute nightmare, like literally a nightmare to deal with, because you're just gonna be deleting that carrier so quickly that it's not even funny. It's the most overpowered carrier, at least against carriers for sure. The carriers can snipe you in return, but Shinano can always smoke yourself up, which most carriers right now usually don't have. They don't have smokes, and Shinano has smokes. The attack armor is so good that there's no carrier out there that can able to HE pen him with their bombs. It just makes it really powerful overall. So for carriers, I think Shinano is like one of the best carrier to pick. It's a no-brainer. You can always pick FDR later on. Both are really, really powerful. FDR is also very unique, but it is very difficult to play as well. So most of the time, it's going to be not easier to do much. It's not going to be easier, right, to do overall good in FDR if you don't know what you're doing. So Shinano is going to be a lot much more easier for newer players out there as well. And also, since its uniqueness is so good, I would highly recommend Shinano over FDR. All right, for the last, I would say a class that is submarine. I think the Archerfish over the Gato, another submarine as well. Both of these submarines are currently available, although Archerfish is kind of very expensive right now for 36,000 steel, and Shinano as well, which I haven't talked about. But again, Archerfish is, I think, the most overpowered submarine in my opinion in the game. You can potentially have a speed of 45 knots on a submarine. Okay, if that does not blow your mind, I don't know what will. But that alone thing is just ridiculous. You have heals on a submarine like Archerfish, 3 of the heals. I can't show you the equipment because I don't have Archerfish at the moment, but what I can just clearly say one thing, that Archerfish is just a terrible design, but again, a terrible design, but on top of that, it is extremely powerful because of that design. The speed and with the heals that you have means that you can actually able to mitigate, or I would say tank so much damage from ASW strikes if you utilize all the 3 heals that it's not even funny. And then you also have some of the highest, what do you call it, the battery that it gets. Like it has like 6 minutes of battery, and then you also have the battery consumable that just not gonna deplete your battery for like 30 seconds. I don't exactly remember the consumable name, but those are some ridiculous thing that Archerfish has. I mean, I don't want to explain it a lot because I think it's very extremely straightforward. The pings have really big width, so if you're able to double ping on someone, you're just gonna be homing those torpedoes so much more accurately because of the double pings, because of the wide ping in general compared to maybe the Gato. Gato has more torpedo boat focused torpedoes, but Archerfish have really insane homing torpedo, or whatever you call it. They have more homing based focus, right? So I mean, if you're able to get the Archerfish, I think the Archerfish is just not gonna be any it's just gonna be so ridiculous ship that I don't know, man. I just got tired of it, guys. I'm sorry, but I think Archerfish is just gonna be simply very highly recommended. I can explain so many things along the way of the Archerfish. It also have the F key, which if I just explain it, it will take too long. But you can go maybe check out other reviews of the Archerfish. But I can just say one thing: Archerfish is very easy pick over Gato right now, unless you love torpedo boats. But again, Gato has some weaknesses which I don't want to explain much. But Archerfish is simply insane in this current state that they have released. Like really insane. 45 knots on a submarine is just ridiculously broken overall. So with that said, I think we'll just end the whole detail and review that I'm currently doing for the first steel ship that you should buy. I hope you get the value. If you do like the content, please let me know in the comments. I might have skipped some of the strengths, I would say, but I can just explain as much as I possibly can, and I hopefully have done that so in a good way. So please let me in the comments if you have any questions. I would love to hear your thoughts as well on these ships. What do you think you should get first? You can also comment me down below as well. Till then, I will catch you guys into the next video. Peace out.